Yo, what's going on, guys? Today, we're gonna be ranking every card in Clash Royale based on how much skill they take to play. Let me know in the comment section whether you guys agree or disagree with my rankings. We're gonna be ranking most of these cards based on how they are standalone, but I may take into consideration how high skill the decks are that they're played in. To start off with, we have the Archer Queen. The Archer Queen is a pretty basic card, kind of just like every other glass cannon, but it does have this special ability, which I feel like makes it even a bit lower skill, so I'll put the Archer Queen, I guess, in this C tier, probably low C tier. C tier would just kind of be where the average skilled cards are going to be. Next up we have Archers. Archers are a little bit similar, but they're a bit higher skill because you have to do certain plays with them to get the most value out of them. Like, when you're facing a ghost, for example, you have to split them early in order to counter the ghost to the best of their ability, so I'll put them in the B tier. They're a little bit higher skill. You have to think a little bit more. We have the Arrows. Arrows are honestly pretty low skill as far as spells go. They're just so big that you pretty much never miss them, and that's pretty much all there is to them. So I'll put them in the D tier, maybe even F tier because of how low skill they feel right now. Next up we have the Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon's an interesting one. It does have some special interactions. It's relatively basic, but there are certain things you can do, like you can try to push a balloon with it to make the balloon move quicker, and also try to avoid a building with it by pushing the balloon a little bit. So I'll actually put it high up in the B tier for right now. Next up we have the Balloon. I mean, the Balloon itself isn't very high skill. There's nothing special to do with it. It's only when you pair other cards with it that you might be able to do some interesting plays. So I guess Balloon, I don't know, it could go in the C tier for now. Nothing too special about it. Okay, this one is very interesting. We now have the Void. See, I feel like the Void is kind of a no-skill card because of how broken it is. It's so easy to play, but at the same time, there are a lot of placements you can do and a lot of predictions you have to do. Like, you have to predict if your opponent will try to predict your Void. So you have to predict the prediction, and also there are some special placements you can do with it. So, man, I don't know. See, I'd put it in the A tier if it weren't so broken, but because of how broken it is, I think I'm just going to put it in the B tier. Because, like, some cool things you can do with it is, if your opponent plays a cannon in the middle for say, your giant, instead of voiding right on the cannon, you void on the very corner of the opposite side. So if they try to block it with a knight, for example, the knight will go in the opposite lane. That's what I'm talking about. Alright, next up we have the Bandit. Bandit does have a few nice interactions, like you can avoid a Mega Knight leap with it if you time it perfectly. So I feel like Bandit is actually relatively high skilled, but it's very spammy as well, so I'll put it high up in the B tier for now, not quite in A tier. Okay, Barbarian Barrel. I don't know, I feel like it's a very basic card. Just a very simple spell that doesn't really have any special interactions, if you ask me. So, I guess I'll put it in the B tier. I mean C tier, middle of C tier. Barbarian Hut. I mean, this card is just so trash right now that I'm not really sure what to say about it. I mean, maybe there are certain things you can do with it, but I would say it's relatively low skilled, so I'm going to put it in the D tier. I will put it above Arrows though. Barbarians, they're a pretty simple card. The only special thing about them is that you have to make sure you place them correctly so they don't get splashed. Like, if you place them on top of a Mega Knight, you have to place them perfectly, so not all of them just die at once from the Mega Knight. I mean, I guess I'll put them at the bottom of B tier. Might even be more like C tier. You know what, to be honest, I'll put them C tier. I don't like these guys, the Barbarians. Alright, Bats. I mean, I wouldn't say there's anything too fancy about Bats, but you know what, the one thing is that they are really good for pushing units like balloons to bypass buildings, so I guess just because of that, we could put them a little bit higher, maybe right above the Void in the B tier. Next up we have Battle Healer. Battle Healer is so low skill, man. I mean, the only thing you have to think about when you play with it is when you want to use your spawn and heal, because when you play the Battle Healer, it does have that instant spawn heal. But yeah, it's relatively low skilled. I mean, I guess I would say in the C tier, I don't know. I feel like putting it lower, but it's kind of just average if you think about it. Next up we have the Battle Ram. I mean, the Pencil's an interesting card. It's not really high skill in any way, except sometimes if you place your Pekka correctly with the Battle Ram, you can bypass buildings, and also you can kite stuff with the Battle Ram, and use it defensively pretty nicely as well, so I mean, I guess I'll put it in the B tier as well. Bomber. Man, Bomber's just so broken right now. There's nothing high skill about it, really. I guess I would just put it... I don't even know. You know, I almost want to put it in the D tier. It's so broken right now that it just doesn't take very much skill to play. So I think that's fine. Alright, Bomb Tower. I mean, Bomb Tower is a very basic building. Does have the Death Bomb, but nobody really cares about that anyways. I remember when the Death Bomb used to do twice as much damage. That was pretty crazy back then. I guess I'll put it in the C tier. I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, almost all buildings can have some high skill plays. Like you can block a Lava Hound at the bridge with it and make the balloon go in front. So I almost do want to put it in the B tier. But I'm not... You know, I'll put it in the B tier just because it's a building. And buildings, I feel like, have a little bit more skill required to play them than certain other cards. Maybe even above archers. Alright, bowler. Man, this guy, I'm about to throw a fit right now because of how much I hate this guy. This guy is so low skill. Plop him in the F tier. He's just so low skill. You just play him in a lane, and the opponent can't push in the lane for like 2 minutes straight. And yeah, it has so much range that it's like a magic archer with a lot more HP as well. Alright, next up we have Cannon. I mean, Cannon's basically the same thing as Bomb Tower, so I guess I'll just put it one rank lower because it doesn't have the Death Bomb. Cannon Cart. I mean, Cannon Cart's a pretty basic card. I guess I'll say just average. Clone. Okay, Clone. I mean, there are a few plays you can do with Clone. I hate to say it, but there are a few plays you can do with Clone. Like, you can sometimes push your troops forward with the Clone to avoid a building, or... I don't know, you could just get a perfect timed Clone to do something crazy. Man, I hate to say it. Dude, I hate to say it, bro. I don't know if I want to put it in the B tier, because that would just be disrespectful to every other card. I mean, I guess I'll just put it at the top of the C tier. It's a very low skill... I mean, like, the decks that play Clone are very low skill, but there are technically a couple things you can do that might require a bit more skill than some of these other cards here. Alright, Dark Prince. I mean, pretty basic card as well. You can do some cool plays with it, though, like going in for it in the back before your opponent plays a Goblin Barrel so it can fully counter it, and you can also jump past the bridge with it, which is pretty cool. But I mean, it's relatively basic. I don't know where I'd put it. I guess the top of C tier is fine. Dark Goblin. I mean, there's nothing too high skill about it. The one interesting play sometimes people will do is they'll try to go for it behind the King Tower to counter a graveyard, for example, just to prevent their opponent from spelling it down without activating their King Tower, but that's pretty much it. I mean, I guess I could say low B tier. Earthquake. I wouldn't say there's anything too high skill about Earthquake. Earthquake decks tend to be a little bit on the higher skill side, except those RG Giant Skeleton Earthquake decks are very low skill, in my opinion. But yeah, there's nothing too fancy about it. You can make some nice plays like going for an Earthquake on a Troopsy or Firecracker will get more damage on tower since the Earthquake slows it down quite a bit. But that's pretty much it, so... I mean, I guess in C tier is fair. Electro Dragon. Once again, a pretty simple card. But sometimes you do have to be a bit careful when you play it, like... When it gets on tower, your opponent usually will try to activate their King Tower, so you have to try to go for a Prediction Nado to pull away their troop, so it doesn't activate their King Tower. Either a Tornado or maybe like arrows, something like that. So I mean, I guess it... I don't know, I don't want to put it in B tier even, because it's just a no-skill card, man. Alright, Electro Giant. I mean, it's basically like a Golem and all those other tanks, except it's just a lot easier to play, because when you play it, you pretty much... are guaranteed to get a bit of value since it can kind of defend itself, unlike other tanks. So for that, I would say it probably has to go in the D tier. Or should I even say F tier? Nah, I probably will save F tier for other cards. I'll just put it at the bottom of the D tier for now. Electro Spirit. I mean, it kind of plays itself. It just hits so many targets, it's kind of impossible to miss it like you can with other spirits. So for that, I would say... Man, I don't even know. I almost want to say D tier, actually, because it kind of just plays itself. You don't have to aim it like the other spirits. Alright, Electro Wizard. Doesn't have anything too special about it except of the spawn-in zap, which can be useful sometimes. So I guess I'll say B tier. Elite Barbarians. Okay, that's an instant S tier. No, I'm joking, I'm not sure, actually. What special plays can you even make with them? I feel like there's nothing. Like, you don't have to have any special timing or anything like that. I mean, I guess I'll just say... Like, what? Bottom of C tier, maybe? Okay, Elixir Collector. Wait, guys, hear me out. Elixir Collector, if you play it, It's a very low skill card, right? It just generates its own elixir, gets you a free elixir advantage for no reason, but here's the thing. You have to think very hard when you play it, and especially after the nerf it got, it's gonna take even longer to get you your elixir back, so if you play it at the wrong time, you can easily get punished for doing so. Don't get me wrong, elixir collector decks are extremely low skill, but the card itself, I mean, at least you have to think about it, right? Unlike some of these other cards on the list so far. Alright, Elixir Golem. Man, here's the thing. E-Golem is known to be one of the lowest skill decks in the game, but at the same time, if you play an E-Golem, you could just be giving your opponent free elixir if you don't support it properly. But here's the other thing. Even though that is true, it's only 3 elixirs, so when you play it in the back, your opponent pretty much can't punish you for it until they get that elixir back. Shoot, man, I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. This one's tough. Dang, this is actually kind of tough. I mean, dude, I hate to do it. I hate to do it, but I gotta put it here, man. I gotta put it here. This is so weird. I feel like this tier list is just opposite right now of what it should be. Alright, Executioner. You have to get some fancy lineups. Sometimes you can kind of like tornado stuff in front of the tower to get free tower damage. It's not that high skill, but not that low skill either. I guess I would put it in the B tier. I wonder if we're gonna get an A tier card sometime soon. I mean, what do you guys think? You think I should put Executioner in the A tier even? You know what? Honestly, I might. I feel like I might actually, yeah. You know what? I'm not sure about this. I might change it later, but I think that should be okay for now. Next up, we have the Fireball. Fireball, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of basic. You can use the pushback sometimes to do cool things, and I think you can also like sometimes stun the balloon in a way to where when it's about to shoot, you can reset its attack somehow. So I guess that is something to consider. I guess I would just say probably in the B tier. I guess I have to put it above these two cards. Just to respect it. Just to put some respect on the Fireball's name. Alright, Firecracker. I mean, Firecracker is kind of known for being an annoying card, but you do have to think about it a little bit, because if you play it dumbly, you're going to give your opponent just a free King Tower activation, and also you have to consider where you play it so that it pushes itself back in the correct direction that you want it to. So for that, I would actually give it not too low of a rating. If I was talking about how annoying it is, I'd put it at the very top. But this is just about skill. So I mean, I don't know. Where would I put it? I'd honestly put it here. I don't know if I'm ranking it a little bit too high. You could make a case that it should go lower in the B tier, but I think that's okay with me. Alright, Fire Spirit. I mean, it's pretty easy to play. It's not like an Ice Spirit or something. You don't have to be too precise, but you do have to be a bit more precise than you do with an Electro Spirit, for example. There are some cool interactions you can do, like killing all the goblins from a Goblin Barrel with it, if you time it perfect. And I feel like 1 elixir cards in general are maybe a little bit higher skill. So I guess I'll put it in the B tier, just mid-B tier. Alright, Fisherman. You know what, now that I think about it, I might actually have to put Fisherman quite a bit higher up there, because Fisherman, I mean, sure, it's not too hard to play, but you have to think of all these different interactions, different ways to activate your King Tower. Like against a Lumberjack, you can pull the Lumberjack right in front of the King with it to have that Rage Bottle spill and then activate your King Tower. You just have to know all the different placements. So I mean, for that, honestly, I almost want to put this in the S tier. I don't know if I would consider it super high skill, but compared to everything else, it kind of is. So honestly, I might leave that there for now. I'm still gonna maybe change some stuff later, but that should be fine for right now. Next up, we have the Ceiling Fan. I mean, it's pretty easy to play. It just never dies if your opponent doesn't have the proper counter to it. I don't necessarily just put it in the C tier, I guess. Freeze. I mean, Freeze is just all about the mind games. The Freeze itself is very easy to play, but what takes some skill, I guess, are the mind games you have to play with Freeze, because sometimes you have a 1 HP Inferno Dragon, and you can either choose to freeze or not to freeze, but if you freeze, sometimes they'll just kill it easily, but other times if you don't freeze, they might just overcommit on it when you didn't even play the freeze in the first place. So, where would I put that? Man, here, I don't know. I guess I would say around here. Alright, Furnace. Man, Furnace is crazy, dude. Nobody plays Furnace. It's so bad because it never connects to the tower now because of Dagger Duchess existing. I'm not even sure what to say about it. There's really not too much to say. Like what, C tier, I guess? I don't know. Giant? Okay, Giant. Wait, guys, what do you think is lower skill, Bowler or Giant? Okay, I'm gonna put it at the bottom of the F tier. Giant is so low skill right now. Normally I'd put it a little bit higher up, like more towards the average section, but right now it's so good that basically people just spam it at the bridge, and that's actually the best way to play it. Like the dumbest way you can possibly think to play Clash Royale, that's the best way to play Giant right now, so this is very justifiable, honestly. Ask any top player and they'll agree with me. Alright, Giant Skeleton. It's a very fun card and I do like it quite a bit, but there's nothing too high skill about it. It kind of just blocks up the whole lane for a while. It's kind of like a Bowler, except not as toxic, I would say. And you don't just get it lined up on the tower for free or something like that. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess in the C tier is fine. Snowball. Okay, honestly, Snowball does have some pretty cool interactions. Like, sometimes you can snowball a miner to activate your king tower if your opponent plays it a little bit too much towards your king tower. And I'm sure it has quite a few other cool interactions that you can use with it. Like, you can fully counter certain things, but you have to have a very precise timing in order to do that. So for Snowball, I mean, I guess I would say probably the top of the B tier, maybe even A tier, to be honest. You know what, actually, maybe even A tier, yeah. Alright, Goblin Barrel. I mean, I do have to say, as much as I think as much as I think Logbait is a no-skill deck, Goblin Barrel itself does take some skill because you have to kind of position it properly. Like, sometimes your opponent will go for a set of guards on the outside, but if you go for the barrel on the inside, you could get a lot of damage. So you have to think about that a little bit. And you could also go for, like, tricky barrels and cool stuff like that. So honestly, I don't know where I'd want to put that. I guess I would say probably at the top of B tier. Almost want to put it A tier, but I don't know. It's not super hard to play. There's just a bit of things that you could do with it. Alright, Goblin Cage. Man, honestly, I feel like I have to put Goblin Cage pretty low, actually. Maybe at the top of the D tier. The thing about it is it's like the other buildings, except the only difference is that you always get the Goblin Brawler out of it, so no matter how badly you play it, you're still going to get some value out of it. Okay, Goblin Drill. Man, I will say, Goblin Drill got a nerf now, so you do actually have to kind of think in order to get damage with it. You actually have to play decently to get damage with it now, so I'm not going to put it as low as I would have before. And also, guys, there's some crazy plays you can do with it. Like, a lot of the time I'll go for the drill in the very corner of the map, and then my opponent will try to predict the front of their tower with a bowler or something, then it just runs away from the drill. So there's a lot of interesting plays you can make with it. It's kind of similar to Goblin Barrel, I guess you could say. But it is a lot stronger than Goblin Barrel as well. I think here is fine. I know drill decks might be no skill, but the card itself can take some skill. Goblin Gang. I mean, there's some cool interactions you could definitely pull off with it, I'm sure. I would say it's relatively average, though. Goblin Giant. I mean, Goblin Giant kind of used to be like Giant, but now it's a little bit weaker, so I guess you have to think a little bit more. I don't know, I'd probably just say D tier, though. It's kind of like a Giant that's a little bit weaker, so you have to think a little bit more than you would with Giant. Goblin Hut. I mean, it's basically the same thing as Furnace, I would say. So yeah, that's why it's going to end up there. Goblins. I mean, you do have to be a little bit smart sometimes with them, like, you have to go for them very quickly to counter the Goblin Barrels, for example, and I mean, that's really it. Like, sometimes there's cool interactions you can do too, like going for a Goblins, then quickly an Ice Spirit, so you freeze the E-Giant, for example, and then the Goblins don't reflect on themselves right away. I don't know if I want to put them B tier or C tier. I guess I'll say the bottom of the B tier. Golden Knight. I mean, it's weird. I wouldn't really say it's high skill, though. It kind of just plays itself. You just press that dash button, and somehow it usually ends up on the tower. I mean, I guess I'll put it here next to Clone. Alright, Golem. I mean, Golem's an interesting one. People always think of Golem as a no-skill deck, but here we're thinking more of the Golem card itself. And for Golem, I mean, it's 8 elixirs, so when you play it in the back, you actually have to be very careful because your opponent could easily punish you, unlike some of these other tanks like Giant or Goblin Giant, or even E-Golem. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess for that, I would say... I mean, it's probably more skill than E-Golem, to be honest. I guess I would say here in the B tier. I know some of these opinions are controversial, but yeah, hopefully you guys are fine with that. Alright, Graveyard. I mean, a lot of the time you don't even play Graveyard. You have a Graveyard deck, but you just don't even play Graveyard until Triple Elixir. You spam a few of them and just get so much damage. It's just RNG, so... I don't know. You can't call it too high skill. What RNG means is that it's just a random number generator, so it just has a random chance of skeletons spawning in certain placements. I mean, you have to be very patient with it, don't get me wrong, but the card itself is just not very high skill, if you think about it. Guards. I mean, they're kind of the same as Barbarians, you just have to surround stuff with them, that's about it. Heal Tiny. I mean, it's very easy to play. But you don't want to be too predictable when you're playing. You don't always want to go for it right away, otherwise your opponent will usually just kill it with the logs, so you have to be a little bit smart with the timing, I guess. And that's pretty much it. Alright, Hog Rider. Man, if it were the Princess Tower meta, I would rank it a bit higher because there is some cool King Tower activations you could do with it. And there still are some cool interactions you can get off with it, but honestly speaking, it's not really one of the higher skill win conditions to play. Just more average, I would say. But I mean, there are some cool stuff you can do, like you can actually kite some units with it and stuff like that. Where would I put it? You know what, I can't put the Hog Rider below a clone spell, so I think that's okay. Hunter, you can counter stuff like Goblin Barrels easily if you play it very quickly in the back, and you can counter Graveyard a lot better if you play it in a very specific placement, so it does have some cool tricks that you can do with it. So for that, I guess I would say... I don't know, I'd probably say the B tier is fine. Maybe even A tier, honestly. I don't know, actually. Maybe I'll just put it above Firecracker. Ice Golem. Ice Golem's a pretty simple card, pretty cheap too. Of course, it does have the ability to kite things, which is maybe a little bit of skill. I mean, it definitely is a little bit of skill involved with that card. So for that, I guess I would just say it could be in the... I don't know. Probably the same category as Battle Ram. They're both pretty similar. Ice Spirit. I mean, Ice Spirit's kind of similar to the other spirits, except you do actually have to place it properly so it can fully counter stuff like bats, for example, and get the most value possible. It's just like a Fire Spirit that's harder to aim, and instead of doing a lot of damage, it just freezes stuff up. But I mean, it's not super hard to play. So I think that's fine. Okay, let me zoom out again. Alright, Ice Mage. It does have the spawn-in effect. It's a very strong defensive card, but nothing too difficult about it, in my opinion. I don't know. I would say probably the C tier. Man, we have to go a bit quicker. I don't want to make this video too long. I'm probably going to start ranking stuff a bit quicker. Inferno Dragon, I mean, you do have to go for special placements with it sometimes, like against an E-Giant. You have to go for it at the very corner of the E-Giant so it doesn't reflect its damage back onto itself. Inferno Tower. I mean, I guess it's really the same as the other buildings. Maybe you do have to do some special things with it sometimes. Like if you're facing a giant graveyard deck, you have to sometimes go for those smart high Inferno Towers and things like that. Knight. Knight is really just one of the most basic cards in the game. Honestly, nothing really special about it. Okay, let me see. Hopefully all of these cards can actually fit in the tier list. Alright, Lava Hound. I mean, it's similar to Golem, but I feel like it's a little bit lower skill because they always go for the Lava Hound first play and stuff. I don't know if I want to put it above or below Hog Rider. Man, it has to go below, because they always love a first play. If they didn't love a first play, I'd put it a little bit higher up, like similar to Golem, maybe. Lightning. I mean, pretty basic spell. It is 6 elixir, so obviously you do have to be a little bit careful with it. But yeah. Little Prince. I mean, it would be maybe decent skilled if it weren't for such a broken ability that it has. So I can't really put it too high up here. Little Prince, I guess... I don't even know. Maybe right here is fine. Lumberjack. Once again, pretty basic card. Guess we could put that in the C tier. Magic Archer. Man, I hate to say it, but I mean, you do have to go for some pretty cool lineups with it. I consider Magic Archer kind of a no-skill card. They just always spam it at the breach, and it's so annoying all the time. But, I mean, I guess the lineups do take some skill, technically. As much as I hate them. Wait, hold up, let me see. Alright, so where would I put the... Bro, it's not letting me drag it. Okay, there it is. I guess I put it in the B tier, right above Firecracker. Hate to say it, though. This card sucks. Alright, Mega Knight. I mean, Mega Knight. What can I say? Where would I put it? Guess right there is fine. Mega Minion. Once again, a very basic card. Guess right here is fine. Mighty Miner. You could get some nice abilities if you get some nice predictions off. Like, if you predict their Goblin Barrel, you can go for the Mighty Miner very early and then get that bomb to fully counter it. So I guess B tier is fine for it. Okay. Miner. I mean, there's nothing really to do with Miner. All you have to do is just go for different placements every time. That's really all there is to it. You know what? As a matter of fact, this card, it just gets straight on tower. It gets straight on tower without you having to do anything special. You just get free damage for no reason. When you don't even deserve it. I guess D tier. I know some people are going to be mad at this, but I don't care. Alright, Minion Horde. Honestly, just a very bad card right now. Very basic, too. I would even say D tier because it just gets so much value. I don't know. When you play it, I mean, sometimes it gets a lot of value. Other times it gets no value when they have arrows, but sometimes you just play it and it just kills everything. So, yeah, it's not super high skill or anything. Minions. I mean, I don't know. I guess they're very average in terms of skill. I'd say pretty low down here, actually. Probably right below the healer. Mini Pekka. Nothing too special about the card either, just a very basic card. Kind of the same as Lumberjack, actually. But maybe even a little bit lower skill, in my opinion. Mirror. I mean, it has a crazy surprise factor. So you have to be very careful of when you do play the mirror, and you mirror up your troops. So I guess for that reason, I don't know, we could put it maybe here in the B tier. Monk. Ooh, Monk. I don't know about Monk. It has an interesting ability. But it's really not that hard to use. Just sometimes hard to time, I guess. I don't know, I'd probably say C tier. Mortar. It has so much HP. Usually gets the job done whenever you play it. You don't have to do anything too crazy, ever. Where would I put it? Maybe right above Inferno Tower in B tier. Okay, Mother Witch. Once again, a very low skill card. It just kind of plays itself. You just play it on skeletons, a skeleton army, anything like that, graveyard. Instantly you get like 10,000 piggies. So I think it's fine right there. Man, I actually can't fit everything on screen for some reason. Okay. Anyways. Musketeer. It's kind of similar to the other cards, but it does have some more range, so I guess you do have to position it a little bit smarter sometimes to get the full value out of it. Might even say B tier, actually. Yeah. Alright, Night Witch. Night Witch, Night Witch, Night Witch. Pretty low skill card. It just spawns stuff for itself. So you get some value whenever you play it. Pekka. I mean, Pekka's really just as basic as it can get, but you do have to make sure you always support it well, otherwise it can get countered for very cheap with just like 3 elixir guards or something like that. So I don't know where I'd want to put it. Maybe at the top of the C tier. Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix really isn't too hard to play either. It basically is a Mega Minion. The only difference is that it has the spawn egg that you sometimes have to take advantage of. Poison. Poison's honestly a pretty low skill spell. It's just so big that it's like so hard to not get value out of it, I feel like. So for that reason, I'd honestly put it probably in the D tier. Prince. Once again, nothing special about it. I'll just put it next to the mini Pekka, I guess. Maybe even above it since it can jump across the bridge. Princess. Man, Princess is so no skill. They just spam it at the bridge always. I guess there are some smart plays you can do with it, like if your opponent pops the monk ability, if you play your princess right in front of the king tower, you could get your king tower activated. Man, I wanted to put it in the D tier, but for that reason, since you can get some cool king tower activations and that kind of thing, for that reason I guess I will put it, I don't know, a little bit higher. As much as I hate to do it. Man, I really hate to do it, but it's okay. Rage. I mean, nothing special about Rage. I'd probably put it even below Barbarrel. Ramrider. There are some pretty cool defensive things you can do with it, so actually Ramrider, I would put it pretty high up there. There definitely are a lot of cool things you can do. Not sure how high up I want to put it, though. Should I even put it in the A tier? You know what, honestly I will, just because it's also very bad in this meta, so it's a lot harder to get a lot of value out of in this current meta. Unless you're quite a good player with it. Rascals, there are some cool things you can do with them, like splitting them and, you know, getting very certain positions. They're not too hard to play, though. So I would say in the C tier is probably fine. Rocket. I mean, you just have to not miss it like Riley, and then you'll be pretty much good to go with it. I wouldn't say it's anything special in terms of skill. I'll put it above Lightning just because it's a lot smaller, so you have to aim it a lot better. Delivery. I mean, Delivery is so easy to play, it just counters everything. So, Delivery. It's kind of like a noob-friendly card, if you ask me. I'd honestly even put it in the D tier, maybe. A very noob-friendly card. Royal Ghost. I mean, it's a relatively basic card. Sometimes you have to get pretty smart positioning with it, but that's about it. I guess C tier is fine. RG. I mean, unlike some other win conditions, you have to kind of make some nice double lane pushes with it and stuff like that. But I don't feel like it's too special. So where would I put it? Would I put it in the B tier? I'm not sure. I feel like no. Not nowadays. If it was before, I would, but with this Evo RG meta and stuff like that, I feel like it's nothing too special. Alright, Royal Hogs. They're kind of just like Hog Rider, except maybe even a little bit easier to play. You never even split them anymore ever since the Dagger Duchess came out. There's no point to really split them. So I guess, I don't know, maybe even below Earthquake, to be honest. Royal Recruits, I mean, they're very low skill. All you have to do is make sure not to play them in the back when your opponent has like a Bowler and Cycle or a Wizard, something like that. And Evo Recruits make them even a lot easier to play. You just have to know when to play them, that's all. So I would say D tier is probably fine. Skarmy. And it's so easy to play. This has to go in the F tier, honestly. It just gets so much value, and it's not too risky to ever play it. Skeleton Barrel. I mean, it's definitely one of the lower skill win conditions. It's not really a win condition, but I guess a semi-win condition. Skeleton Dragons. They're honestly kind of low skill too. I'd probably say, I don't know, somewhere in the C tier. Not really sure if I positioned all of these correctly, but you guys get the rough idea of it. Skeleton King. I mean, all you have to think about is when you're gonna ability with the Skeleton King. That's really all there is to it. I'm not sure if I want to say D tier or C tier. I mean, I guess I'll put it above the E-Barbs. Skeletons. Okay, listen, guys, listen. Skeletons, it's a 1 elixir card. It's so basic, but there are so many crazy interactions you can do with it that you would never expect. Do I put it here in the A tier, or do we put it in the S tier? Dude, I'm not sure. I know some people are going to be so conflicted on this. Some people are going to say it should be all the way in the S tier. Other people would say this is good. I'm honestly going to say, man, get out of here, Executioner. Alright, that's fine. Alright, Sparky. Sparky. I mean, all you have to do is make sure you support it correctly. That's really all there is to it. I don't know. Spear Goblins. There are some cool interactions you can get with them, kind of like the skeletons, just a lot less of those interactions. I'd probably say here in the B tier. Tesla. I mean, sometimes Tesla was known for being a little bit of a higher skill building, but ever since Evo Tesla came out, it just kind of ruined that a little bit. It's just like a lot easier to play now and just so broken, I feel like. So I'll put it below the cannon in the B tier. Log. I mean, there are some cool interactions you can get with it, like, you can fully counter Hog Rider with just a log if you time it perfectly and you have your King Tower activated as well. And I'm sure there are also a lot of other interactions like that, so because of that, I don't know, I'd probably put it a little bit higher up on the tier list. Where, though? I would probably say below the Magic Archer. Three Musketeers. I mean, they're hard to play in this meta, but they're not high skill, really, so I don't know. I mean, they are 9 elixirs, so you do have to be very careful with them. That's the only thing about it. I mean, I guess C tier is fine. Tombstone. It's kind of a cool building. I feel like it actually takes a bit more skill than most other buildings. There's a lot more special placements that you can go for with it. Like, you can play your Tombstone behind your tower when you're facing a Goblin Barrel deck just to block up the lane and block up any potential Goblin Barrels, which is pretty cool. I would honestly say A tier for the Tombstone. I do quite like the card. Alright, Tornado. Oh, you know what, guys? I think we have to put the Tornado up here in the golden S tier spot for now. It's just like the Fisherman, except there's way more things you can activate your King Tower against, way more stuff you have to know when you're playing the Tornado. Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes like an easy to play card, but there are a lot of activations that you have to know, and also a lot of activations that just so many people don't know except the very top pro players. Valkyrie, I mean, it's kind of like a knight except easier to play since it splashes in a 360 area. Wall breakers, you can do some cool kites with them. Yeah, I guess I do have to put them above, like, you know, the elixir collector and some of the stuff like that. Witch, I mean, it's a spawner troop, so it's not going to be very high up here. I would probably say just next to the Night Witch, probably below the Night Witch, actually. Okay, Wizard. I mean, maybe it used to take a little bit more skill to play, but now Evo Wizard is just so broken that I feel like you don't have to think all that much when you're playing the Wizard. I don't know, I'd probably just say somewhere there in the C tier. Xbow. I mean, once again, I would probably just put it right here between the buildings. It definitely does take a bit more skill than Mortar and stuff, though, so I'll actually put it higher up in the B tier. It's a 6 elixir card, so you have to definitely be a bit smarter when you're playing it. Alright, Zap. I mean, it's honestly so easy to play. It's one of the easier to play spells in the game. Not sure where I want to put it, though. I guess right here is fine. And lastly, we have the Zappies. You could go for some cool splits with the Zappies, so that is something to consider, I guess. Yeah, actually, there are some cool things you can do. Like, you have to position them right, so when they, for example, go on an RG or something, they have a chain stun on it instead of all hitting at the same time, because if they all hit at the same time, they don't stun it properly. Or as much as they could. So actually, I might even put them in the A tier. And actually, I don't know, just here in the B tier seems fine. And yeah, that'll be it for the tier list, so thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye!